If you're working with raw Excel ranges, sooner or later, your formulas or pivot tables will break when new data is added. Excel tables solve this by turning your data into dynamic datasets. So you'll never miss new data in your analysis again. This dataset contains bubble tea sales across 3 outlets. To do a quick analysis, I can just click into this and just insert a pivot table. And I'm going to insert a pivot table from range. And as you can see here, it automatically detects the table range for me. I'm just going to put the pivot table on an existing worksheet, and I'm going to put it over here. I click on OK. So now the pivot table fields appears, and I just need to drag product to rows and let's say quantity to values to analyze which product have sold the highest quantity. I just right click, sort from largest to smallest, and immediately I know that milk tea is my most selling product. So assuming that I have new data that comes in, and I would like to add a new record. So to add a new record, I'll just go over here, right at the end of the table. And for now, I'll just copy this over here. And I can then change this from 13th of January to 15th of January. And I can just change the quantity to, let's say, 250. Now, when I enter 250, the milk tea quantity in the pivot table, they don't change, right? And the reason for this is if I go back to my pivot table ribbon and I look at the data source, I realize that the range is until E22, right? So which does not include the new row that I've added. So what I need to do to fix this problem is to manually go in to change this to 23. And you see here immediately the number, the milk tea number changes. So instead of using a fixed range, a better approach is to convert the dataset into a table. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click and just going to copy this tab to a new tab and rename the tab as data table, right? And I'm going to remove this pivot table over here for the new tab, right? So to create a table, I can just click into the dataset, click on insert table. And again, it detects the range for me and it detects that my table has headers. So that's okay. I have now a table design ribbon, right, indicating that this is a table. So if I click out of the table, you can see that my table design ribbon is gone, and I click in, the table design ribbon comes back, right? What I can do is I can give the table a name. So I can say this is my sales table, right? So with this, now I can now insert a pivot table to do the same analysis that I did just now, right? And I can go pivot table from table, and it now detects that I have a table, and do I want to get the pivot table from the sales table, which is what I want to do, right? And then I'm going to put it on an existing worksheet, and I click on OK. So I'm going to move product into rows and quantity into values. Again, I'm going to sort this from largest to smallest, and you can see here that I have my summary of my sales for the products. Right now, assuming sales data, a new sales data comes in, and I need to add a new record, right? So I go back down here, right? And now I'm going to add another record for Amokyo Hub winter melon tea, right? I'm going to change the date to 15th, right? And I'm going to change the quantity to, let's say, 70, right? So when I click on enter, right, you see that the quantity of the in the pivot table, the values, they do not change, right? So all I have to do is to go into the pivot table and then just go to refresh. And now winter melon is now 735. Now, what if I add a new column to the table? So I can add a new column. So for example, here is price and quantity, and I want to get the total sales amount, right? So the sales amount is price times quantity. So I can add a new column here that's equals to price times quantity, and I just click on enter, and the new column is created for me. So you can see here that the formula for each cell of that column is the same throughout. That's the characteristic of a table, right? And I just rename this as sales. With this, you can see here that with this new column added to the table, the new field is not added into the pivot table fields yet. What I can do is go to the pivot table ribbon and click on refresh, and you see that the sales appears after the refresh. So now I can just click on sales into the values, and now my sales values appear for the products. To summarize, Excel tables help you turn raw Excel ranges into structured data sets. Once your data is in a table, Excel automatically creates dynamic ranges, so new rows and columns are included without adjusting formulas or pivot tables. This makes your analysis much more reliable as your data grows. So a good habit to build is simple. Structure your data before analyzing it.